It's simple math, and that's why I was able to compete with all the big shots out of New York. The broker tells me, oh, you're wasting your time. No, you're wasting my time. Can you talk a little louder?
A little more angry.
I'm a big mouth.
He wants the anger. Welcome, Ben. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Feel free to grab a seat right here in my $30 Amazon chair here. Oh, you don't want to sit?
I'll sit when I want to sit.
Oh, my gosh. All right, Ben. Tell everybody, why do they got to buy real estate?
You still here?
Take it.
I've been clean and sober for 30 days. Oh, wait. That's the wrong event. That's the one I met him at. How's everybody doing, all right? Boy, we got a lot of people out there. I've met a lot of you guys already. I could feel the hunger. The hunger. You guys are the best people I ever want to be around because you're ready to make some money, okay? And I'm here to tell you that the writing is on the wall, okay? I don't have a crystal ball. None of us do. But I can just tell you from my personal experience that the writing is on the wall, okay? The shit's going to happen, all right? And you got to be ready. I see all the signals. When you see the signals, you got to pay attention to the signals, okay? And I've made mistakes. I'll be the first one to admit it. You know, everybody knows interest rates, for most people, they're double. For me, they're triple, okay? I didn't have no clue interest rates were going to go through the roof so fast, so quick, so much, okay? And now, I'm sitting here on owing hundreds of millions of dollars, okay, and I'm probably paying 3% more. That's $6 million. That's $6 million bucks. That's $500,000 a month, right? Do the math. So I'm telling you, when shit like that happens, it's a cycle, okay? You got to go through a storm, but then that's going to lead to opportunity, and opportunity is coming. I see the signals. I'm looking at people sending me advertisements and offerings. They're trying to sell billions of dollars of loans right now. Why? Because when these loans come due, you're going to have a problem. All right? All right, let's face it. In the commercial world, this is the way it works. When a guy like me or anybody borrows money in a commercial, you're not borrowing for 30 years like you do on a house. You got 3 year, you got 5 year, you got 7 year, maybe 10. And it better be like a friggin' Home Depot or something like that, okay? So everybody that borrowed money at this really great rate 3, 5, and 7 years ago, this shit's gonna hit the fan. Why? Because the property cannot handle the debt ratio, and it's not going to appraise out for what it used to, and they got too much debt, and the banks know it. I talk to big shot bankers, and they're all telling me, they're all playing the game right now. It's called pretend and extend. They don't know what to do. If the cat gets out the bag that they're sitting on all these bad loans, the bank is only worth what the loans are worth. So what's going to happen? This stock's going to go down the toilet, and they're going to go out of business. We've seen banks go out of business. That bank in California, Republic Bank, I lost $1 million because I didn't even know I owned their preferred stock. All right, the bank went belly up, the stock went down the toilet, and everybody that was invested in the bank lost their shirt.
You had an advisor that put you in that?
I had what?
Somebody else put you in that, right?
Yeah, but the point is, yes, I have a wealth advisor.
I say that because it's like
but
it gets confusing.
Can I blame the wealth advisor? No. He bought it 3 or 4 years ago, and it's been doing fine. And wealth advisors, they're great maybe when they're moving stocks and all that, but they're not watching the real estate market. And the banks keep everything quiet. Everything's a secret with the banks. When bad shit starts happening, they don't want nobody to know. It'll shut them down. We've seen it happen. History has shown it many times. But I'm telling you now, you're going to see the shit hit the fan in the next year and the year after that. they're sitting on so many loans that they cannot perform. Because once those loans are up and the guy's not paying 3.5% no more, and now he's got to pay 7%, his mortgage is going to double. Property can't handle it. What's going to happen? He's going to have to come in, buy down some debt. Nobody wants to buy down debt, okay? I have to sit there and figure out which properties I might want to buy down, which ones I can handle it. It's going to be a mess. But you had to start looking now. And everybody knows it. Every big deals I'm looking at, right away, they're putting them on the market. Oh, I could buy 200 apartments right now, and I can assume their Fannie Mae loan at only 3%. Well, that's fine. But that loan is due in a year. Then what do? The mortgage is going to go to 7%. That property's not going to look so good. So I see everybody's hurrying up right now. They're putting the properties on the market. They're trying to get rid of them so they don't get stuck. Because the shit's going to hit the fan. It has to. It's logic. Okay? So that's what I'm here to tell everybody today. And now's the time to come in, baby, and play the game. You got a low ball. And if they don't want to play low ball, then no ball. Don't play with them. But now's the time you got to come in and play the fucking game. Pardon my language, there's kids here. Okay? If the guy wants $1 million, offer him 700. It's business. That's what you got to do. Everything is in the buy. I don't care what kind of real estate you're into. You could be into any one you want, multifamily, industrial, it doesn't matter. Everything in real estate are numbers. And you know what the numbers are coming in, you know what's coming in, and you know the money going out. It's simple math. I'm embarrassed to tell you I never went one day to high school. Why? I knew how to get high. I didn't have to go to school to learn. But basically, it's simple math. Money in, money out. Okay? And when the interest rates double, you're going to have a lot more money going out than you used to have coming in. It's just a fact. You know, it's life. What are you going to do? So basically, I want everybody to realize, listen, you're at a point right now. It's all about timing. Now's the time to start looking for the deals that you like, that fit your life. Everybody's got a different life, whether it's a 4-plex, whether it's an 8-plex, whether it's 100 units. I don't care. Go out there, find the deal you like, and lowball the shit out of it. All right? What are they going to do? What are they going to do? Oh, no. It's not personal. You know, the guy calls me up and the broker says, oh, you insulted the seller. I'm not insulting him. This isn't a number I'm willing to pay. This is the number he wants. Maybe we could find somewhere in the middle to meet. I don't know. It's called playing the game. That's what you got to do with real estate. All right? Just because they're asking for that price doesn't mean you got to pay it. You got to pay the number that fits right for you. All right? Because you're the one that's going to be on the hook for owning the property and running the property and cash flowing. So play the game and lowball the shit out of stuff. And if you ain't got a broker that's willing to write you and go back 3 or 4 or 5 times, then he ain't the right broker. Okay? If the broker tells me, oh, you're wasting your time. No, you're wasting my time because you don't want to get out there and do your job. All right? I'll go back and forth. I can tell you something. I just closed on a hotel in Tampa just the other day. It took us 4 or 5 months of going back and forth with the goddamn seller to finally get it at a price I could swallow and he could swallow. That's the way it works. But listen, the most important day of real estate is the day you buy it. And you got to buy it right. You got to buy it knowing you got some upside. You got some value add there. You got to have a plan where that property is going to be making and worth more money from when you bought it. That's just the starter. So what's going on, Kevin? Meet Kevin. Hey, I do want to say thank you, Kevin. He's a great guy. I appreciate you having us down here. It counts as a family vacation, too, to my wife and kid. And we really do appreciate all the hospitality and everything you've done for us. And we've been friends for a long time, even though he messed up my house when he stayed there. But everything, you know, it's great because he likes to educate. All right? Let me tell you, People like us, we like to help people. If the whole world helped each other, can you imagine what a wonderful world this would be? It would be great. I mean, and let's face it, money can solve most of the world's problems. If somebody's making money and they're living good and they take care of their family, and that's happiness. So I'm sorry. They say money isn't everything. Try living without it. You know, my wife ain't. Okay? You want to see her get mad? Let that credit card not work. What else is going on, Kevin? Here we are in Las Vegas, baby. We made it.
Let's go. That's awesome. Well, Ben, what do you say to folks who are like, I want to get into real estate, I want to buy, I want to be lowballing right now, but I don't have enough money to start with?
Listen, everybody has got their own situation. You got to sit down and say, okay, this is what I got. Do I have good credit? Listen, your credit, you're only a number, all right? The banks don't look at you. They don't care if you're good looking, you're ugly, it don't matter. You could be a man, a woman, they don't care about gender, they don't care about shit, what color you are, all they care, you're a number. So, you know, your credit score represents you, which, you know, you gotta expect that. Listen, if you were loaning somebody money, you wanna make sure there's somebody you could trust, right? Well, you gotta prove that you're somebody that can be trusted to borrow their money. And you gotta get your resources together. Sit down and say, okay, I got this, I got that. Maybe I don't need this. Maybe I'll sell it and get the cash, invest it in something. You know, you got to know what you can do. Don't waste your time looking at stuff you can't do. I don't. There's a lot of big deals out there. I can't do them. It would take up too much of my money. I can't waste my time looking at stuff I can't do. Figure out what you can do. All right? If you're just starting out, FHA. 3.5% down. You can go up to 4 units. I tell people every day, okay, listen, people that are starting out, oh, I'm going to go buy a house. I'm 25 years old, 30 years old. Why? Why don't you wait? Okay, it's not going to be your last house. Why don't you buy yourself a 4-plex and let the tenants pay all the bills and you live for free? Try it for a year. Right now you're paying $2,000 a month rent. If you save $2,000 a month, that's $24,000 a year you're saving. Saving money is making money. So, you know, figure out what level you're on, what kind of property you can qualify for, whether you got to go FHA, whether you got to go 20% down, typical for a regular commercial deal. If you got $100,000, well, $100,000 is 20% of $500,000, right? Right? Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
So look for what you can do. And right now, look for the deals that you feel you can handle. You know, technically, you know, it's good to have properties in where you're at, because I like to get my hands on stuff. You know, it's a lot easier for me to accomplish things 20 or 50 miles from my house than it is buying them across the state. You know, I mean, that's just me. But we're talking about, you know, commercial assets. So buy stuff that you feel you can get in there, get your hands dirty. Let me tell you, you can always find deals where you're paying for a property and you can raise the rent a couple of $100 a month. But, you know, maybe you got to come in and put some fresh appliances. You know, he came in here and he told me what to do with a house that I was buying, that I bought to flip, and he had some good ideas, and I took his ideas, and it definitely made the place pop, and it helped me with the sale. You know, figure out what it's going to take to make that place, give it a little pop, so you can charge a couple of $100 more a month. Okay? You can always find a property that you can improve a little and raise the rent, and it's worth more money. It's simple. What else?
Linked down below, you're going to find a link to meetkevin.com where you can access the wonderful courses on building your wealth. You'll learn options, stocks, 0 to millionaire real estate investing, do-it-yourself property management, rental renovations, entrepreneurship, making YouTube content, social media, being a sales agent, you name it. Take a look at the programs on building your wealth, linked down below, and we have an expiring coupon code linked below, so get in before that expiration. How did you first get into property management? Can you help people see that? Because you just said you didn't go to high school, and there are a lot of folks saying, how can I get that hands-on
I'll tell you my
experience?
quick story. My quick story was I grew up as poor as you can be in the most dangerous neighborhoods in New York City and didn't have a pot to piss in, and my family was wacko. All right, so I got into trouble when I was a kid, and I luckily joined the Army. I joined the Army, and I kind of got a little taste of real estate while I was stationed in Germany in the Army, because I was a hustling kid. You know, I might have been 14 years old, but I was out there hustling with 20-year-olds. You know, that's the way it was in New York, you know. So basically, I would go out there and work with a guy that used to rent apartments to GIs. He'd give me a few bucks every time I bring him a GI to rent an apartment. That worked out pretty good because the Army didn't pay shit. Then they sent me to California. I rented an apartment building. The old lady that was managing the building, she was having trouble. So, and this is back in 1987. 1987, my rent was $500 a month to live in this apartment. The lady said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you $50 a month off the rent if you just go around the property every day and pick up garbage. $50 was a lot of money to me. So now my rent was only $450 a month instead of $500. Every day I get up, go around, pick up some garbage. Good, fine with me. Then I started helping her more and more and helping her turn apartments over, helping her fix things in the building, and I got into property management and I liked it. It's simple. You got a place to give somebody to live, you fix the place up, they pay your rent every month. If something breaks, fix it, you collect the rent. It doesn't take a brain scientist to figure that out. And it was a good business because you're creating value in property. So I met the owner, he liked me, he started giving me more and more work to do. I started getting into property management, and I was gonna re-enlist in the Army. And he said, no, he's making more money now, he's got me helping him. He offered me to not re-enlist in the Army and stay working for him. So basically, I worked for him, I made him money, and then I said, wait a minute. If I could do this for this guy's driving around in fancy cars and mansions and living large, why can't I do that? Okay, I'm doing all the work, he ain't doing shit. All right, so basically, I had to get in where I fit in. I started going and buying up the worst shit anybody could imagine that nobody wanted in Oakland, California. Crack houses. All right, these places were the worst, but they were salvageable. They just needed some love. I came in there, I scraped up whatever money I could. I had hard money lenders. I used my VA loan once. Whatever it took to get a deal, but I'd buy what nobody else wanted. I'd stand on the courthouse steps. Back then, they'd do the auctions on the courthouse steps for foreclosures. And all these guys were pretty tough, but some properties came up that were so rough. These guys, when that property came up for auction, they'd all back away. And I'd be the one, I'd be the only one, because I grew up in New York. I could handle a rough neighborhood. I get along with anybody. I don't care. I don't think I'm better than anybody. I can relate to anybody from the bum on the street to a guy that's worth a bunch of big bucks. So I buy up all the worst stuff in the world. I'd fix it up. I was managing property for him, and then I was buying my own stuff. And the hard money lender actually told me, if you're really smart, don't touch the money. Once you fix it up and you flip it, or you can refinance. That I would do that to raise more money. I get in there, I fix them up, I refinance, I take that refinance money, go buy the next deal. If I sold the property, in 30 years, I have never touched the money from a flip. I 1031'd it into the next deal. And I was in California. So in California, you not only got 20% capital gains tax, you got 10% of the state tax. If I would have made $100,000 on a deal, I'd have to give $30,000 away. Screw that. I'm going to flip it into the next deal. So I just kept doing that, and that's what worked for me. All right, so I highly encourage you to always try to 1031 and defer your capital gains tax and any state tax, because that's more money that's going to help you grow and buy the next deal.
One of the things you just said was you were making the person money that you were working for. A lot of people feel bitter about that, like, oh, they're making all the money or whatever. He's got the fancy car. How did you get over that? I mean, you were learning for him, but you were also providing him value. How did you get over that feeling?
Listen, if he didn't give me the opportunity to work for him, then I wouldn't, feel so confident in working for myself. So I appreciated the fact and he gave me some tough stuff to do. And then eventually he became a partner because he saw that I knew what I was doing, so he was willing to back me up with money. I mean, it's all about, creating relationships with people. And if you're going to make somebody money in life, that's fine. But eventually, at a certain point, they either got to share with you in the wealth, or you got to move on and do it on your own. Or, like I did, a combination of both. Okay, everybody needs to exceed in life, and everybody deserves to be rewarded. Okay, and the harder you work, the bigger the reward. And luckily, he saw that he could sit back and be a big shot, and I do all the dirty work. He said, sure, you need money? Here, here's money. I mean, plus I did my own stuff.
So he private party sort of lent to you?
Huh?
He lent money to you, sort of like a hard money partner?
No, we were partners.
Oh, okay.
He had the credit, he had the money to put down. We go to banks to get loans, and we be partners. He gave me some good advice, but I was out doing the dirty work. But at first, I didn't have to put any money up. But as soon as he saw me starting to make some money, oh no, we got to be partners, 50-50, which was fine. I ended up retiring the guy, and and I grew to be much larger than him. But
good for you.
I mean, property management can be a good way for you to get into real estate. Sales also. You get a sales license. Let me tell you, a sales license is a license to make money. I pay out millions of dollars a year in commissions, and I'm happy to. If it wasn't for the brokers, I would never have anything. They feed me the deals because once they know that you're a closer, okay, they're going to keep feeding you deals because they want to close more deals. And I'm loyal. All right? If a broker feeds me a deal and I make money on it, when I'm ready to sell that deal, I'm going to give it back to him so he can resell it. So he's got future money coming in. All right? That's the way I grew. Every broker in town knew that if Ben Mallah wanted that deal, you better sell it to him. Why? Because it's going to pay now and it's going to pay later. And that's why I was able to compete with all the big shots out of New York and all the other big shots. They have all these, they're not loyal. Loyalty, because we're all human, all right? You got to connect with people. And when somebody can help you and you help them, then you work on that relationship. And everybody grows and everybody makes money, and that's the way it worked for me.
How do you start now with the high rates? Just more down, get a better deal, lowball more?
You got to buy them at the right price. I don't know about the rest of the country so much, but Florida, we're getting crushed right now. Not only we got 7% interest rates, insurance is double. Everywhere labor has gone through the roof. I mean, there's no more paying anybody, $15 an hour or something. A maintenance guy wants 25 now. I mean, people working in offices, and you can't blame them because the cost of living so much. So you got higher labor costs, higher material costs, higher insurance costs, higher interest rates. You got to factor all this in. And the biggest mistake I've seen people make when they buy real estate is they don't consider their property taxes. You might buy a property and the guy shows you what he's paying for property taxes. But that doesn't mean you're going to be paying that. They're going to reassess the value of that property when you buy it, and they're going to jack it up. You're not going to have the same cash flow. So you have to make sure you know. That's the beauty about real estate. You can pretty much predict everything in the future that's going to happen. You know if you buy that place for $1 million, but this guy's got it sitting on a tax assessor's office for only $300,000 or $400,000, they're going to record that sale. They're going to see that sale. They're going to reassess it at about 80% of that $1 million and charge you whatever the millage rate is. So you have to allow for all your expenses. That's why you have to sit down, do your homework, calculate every single expense you have, and make sure you lowball the shit out of them when you buy it. You got to have that cushion room too, So you can't plate things too thin. You got to have that breathing room.
Is the election going to matter?
Yes. I mean, I'm not a big political guy. I've met Trump, and I grew up in New York. The problem is this. Life was good. I live my life based on facts and logic. When Trump was president, I was living damn good. Interest rates were low. My poor employees could afford to go out and buy dinner. Things didn't cost so much. Gas was cheaper, food was cheaper. You can't go to McDonald's today and spend less than $15 a person. How can anybody afford that? It makes no sense. So, when Trump was president, I felt like he was concerned about people growing, keeping costs down, keeping interest rates down, and as far as socially, I mean, Putin, I didn't hear shit about Putin when he was president. Okay, Putin was drinking his vodka, sitting back and doing whatever the hell he was doing. He wasn't invading countries. North Korea, you didn't hear shit about him. Now they're all flexing their muscle. Why? Because we got a corpse as a president. I mean, listen, I'm not attacking him personally. I'm stating facts. All I can tell you is what I see and what I can know is true. Okay? We can't have, the Democrats, number one, are not business people. They never have been. Okay? And they just like to work the system. Their business, in my opinion, from what I've seen, is just running things and milking the system, and that's their life. The Republicans are more business people. Okay? And they believe in everybody making money. So, I hope to hell that he wins because we got nobody else that stepped up to the plate. I met Robert Kennedy right down the block here back 6 months ago, and I'm sorry, he might be a nice guy, but I never heard of him. He's right on his name, and I couldn't understand a word he was saying to me. I mean, you can't be a president and you can't talk. I'm sorry. So we got a corpse, we got one guy who can't talk, and we got Trump who's, let's face it, the guy's ego is big, but who else do you want to represent us? I mean, the Middle East. You didn't hear shit about the Middle East, the terrorists and all that bullshit. You didn't hear it when he was president. Why? Because they knew he was going to react. We need a cuckoo to handle the other cuckoos. It's life, It's like me. I wasn't a tough guy, but I always hung out with the toughest guys in the neighborhood. That's what kept me safe. You gotta stand up to these people because they don't think right. I don't want to go into the whole political thing, but us leaving that, I was just talking to a guy that works for you. He was stationed in Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, when Trump was president, we were there, and I don't care about what agreements we had to leave, whatever, it's how we left. When we were in Afghanistan, women could go to school, they could go to work, they could live like normal human beings. Now, they're treated like pets. They're not allowed to leave their house. They have no rights, okay? These people are living like it's thousands of years ago. It's not logical. So, I think Biden's past 4 years have destroyed us. The whole country looks at us as weaklings, and all Trump was telling everybody, listen, NATO, you got to step up to the plate. These guys in your backyard, you got to spend money like we're spending money. Everything seemed logical. All right, yeah, does he got a big mouth? He's a New Yorker. People just don't understand him. They don't understand. He just likes to be dramatic. But deep down inside, he's a tough guy and he's logical. So that's the end of my politics speech. Unless this man here, he ran for governor. Until he dyed his hair or something. I don't know what the heck. California is a different place. In fact, when somebody first told me, hey, this guy, you should meet this guy. This guy wants to meet you. Meet Kevin. Meet Kevin. It sounds like a dating site for men trying to meet men. And then when I saw a picture of him, I said, yep. And he's from California. But otherwise, that's the story. So real estate is great. I love it when you buy a piece of real estate because you can put your hands on it, and you can make it better, and you can make it make more money. You just got to find a deal, and you can't get discouraged. Everybody's asking a fortune. I'm asking a fortune for my properties. And some of them, most of them, that's the way you start out. I'm here, the buyer's here, and every day I'm negotiating, and we're finding a middle point to meet. And I do it every day. I have a Home Depot for sale right now. It's on the market. Go to 1031save.com. You'll see all my assets for sale. You'll see probably, a couple of $100 million for sale right now. Okay? But if somebody offered me, If I'm asking 25 million, if somebody came here and showed me some real money, maybe 23 and a half, maybe 24, I'm taking it. You know, another thing about real estate is terms. You want to get a good price? Give them good terms. The reason why I get a lot of deals, people call me up, how'd you get that deal? Well, number one, I got nobody to answer to. I got no partners except my kids. I got no board. So that gives me a lot of leeway, a lot of power. But I shorten my due diligence terms. I come in, I inspect the property. Let's say I want to buy 100 units. I tell my kids, go walk every single unit. And they do it in one day. You walk in an apartment, now you see what the condition is. You go over the numbers. Listen, I tell the guy, in 5 business days, I'll go hard with $1 million. Everybody else wants to tie him up for 30, for 45, for 60. They got financing contingencies. I don't do that. You know, I put my money where my mouth is, and then that enables me to get a better price. Terms are very important. Sellers want quick deals that they know they're going to close. So if you have the ability to shorten your terms and do a quick due diligence and not have to depend on a financing contingency. I still financed, but I knew the bank was going to back me up. So, you know, but I didn't have a contingency in there. So the sellers always want to go with the sure thing. Plus, if I screw up and don't meet my obligations in a contract, he gets my $1 million. I've never given up a deposit yet, but I'm going to tell you, I've kept some. I had no choice. The guy wanted to buy my hotel. He put $1 million up. He couldn't close in time. I'm sorry. And by the time he couldn't close, somebody came along and offered me more money. He lost $1 million. That's business. So, you know, terms are very important.
Should somebody start today with a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage on that 1 to 4?
Can you talk commercial? A little louder?
A little more
I'm
angry.
a big mouth.
He wants the anger. Okay.
Good anger. Positive anger.
1 to 4 or hotels and commercial and like your world.
What about?
Your world?
My world.
Or 1 to 4?
1 to 4? You mean 1 to 4 units? Listen, you do whatever you feel you have the tools and abilities to do. All right? If you can find a hot deal on a house and you know damn well you can buy this house, you can put some lipstick on that pig, and you can flip it, then you do it. But make sure you do your homework. I don't care what you buy, as long as you know that you're buying a good deal and you know you got upside. It's all in the comps. The comps tell you what that house is worth per square foot in that location. You know what it's worth if you put some paint on it, maybe put some flooring in. He knows all that stuff. He likes to come in and decorate. Oh, you got to put crown molding up here. I did. I listened to him, and it worked. And you got to paint this different color. He's right. He came in. He gave me some pointers. All right. It was my fault I didn't get what I originally wanted. I sold the house for like $9 million. It was supposed to be like $11 million, but that was the market. Interest rates control everything. Okay, there is no way. The average guy used to go out and buy a house right now at 3% interest. Every $100,000 would cost him $3,000 a year in interest. Well, now it's costing him $7,000. Okay, it doesn't make sense right now for a lot of people. Find a deal. Make sure that, you know, you do your homework, look at the comps, look at recent sales on it, have a construction budget on what you're going to spend to fix it up, and make sure the equation works. It's simple math. And whenever you go to Home Depot, right? Go to Home Depot, get a bid on something, then go to Lowe's and let them, they'll do it for 10% less just to get your business.
There you go. Get the credit card, get another 5%. Would you manage properties yourself first if you were just starting, or hire a property manager first?
I never hired a property manager in my life. That's what I did. Plus, you got to be careful with property management. I'm not saying it's all bad, but it's not their property, and it's not their money. And nobody better will control your money but you. Nobody's going to protect you but like you will. All right, if I need a toilet replaced, I'm going to make sure I'm buying stuff at the cheapest price. Okay, management companies, you know, they got their own way of doing things, and they're, you know, the point is, if you can avoid management, You should always try to do it yourself if you can. If you can't, then watch the management company. Watch what they're spending. Make sure they're bringing in the money. Make sure they're keeping your properties full. You got to be on them. You have to supervise the management company on what they call an asset management level.
If you were starting over, would you rather be an agent or a lender?
You know, I'm not really a lender. I don't like to loan money. I like to borrow money because I'm borrowing your money and I'm making money with it. Okay? When you're a lender, you know, you basically you're loaning money out. You get your return. You know what's going to happen. There's no upside really. But it's a lucrative business. You know, but it's not for me loaning money. Plus, if things go bad, you're the one on the hook. That person flies the coop and you're stuck. Then all kinds of other problems get triggered. As far as being an agent is a great way for you to get into real estate, especially if you're young. And every single person that you encounter is a potential client. Because, somewhere during life, most people either want to buy or sell something. Everybody wants to buy a house. If I was a young agent today, I always tell young agents, they call me, they consult with me, and they say, well, how can I get some business going? I say, it's simple. Go find the most expensive apartment buildings in your neighborhood. And then go to the post office, even in today with all the electronic stuff, go to the post office. All the mailboxes are in one location. And it costs nothing to do a bulk advertisement to have the mailman put a card of yours or an advertisement, stop renting, start buying in that mailbox. And you'll get some calls. You're guaranteed. And then sometimes some people need help. Then you have to find them a lender. If you're a good agent, you're going to take that person that has the ability to do something, but they need a little help, go get them financed, take them to the bank, refer a broker to them that loans them money, show them houses, show them stuff that they can afford, and put the whole thing together and make your fee. I mean, listen, let's face it. An average house in Fort Lauderdale where I live, where I have a house, I was talking to an agent the other day on the last video we did, it's $1 million for a dump. He gets 30 grand on every million. So if he sells something for $3 million, he makes 90 grand in one deal. Okay, imagine if he built himself up to doing one deal a month. All right, he could make $1 million a year just selling houses. But if you are thinking about selling real estate, go where the money's at. Don't waste your time with being in an atmosphere. Listen, you got to surround yourself with people that are making money. It's all in the company you keep. You want to make money? Get around other people making money. That's how I started. I got around this guy who owned the apartment building. He was making money. I got with him. I started getting involved with him. Then I became someone making money.
I loved your suggestion to mail tenants a letter at high-end apartment buildings. One of the first things I did as an agent is I did exactly that, and I put a picture with a little statement, "Thanks for paying my mortgage," with a picture of someone who looked just like you. I think it was you. Thanks for paying my mortgage.
Listen, there's always going to be renters, but at some point, sometimes a lot of people, they don't, they're busy. They could be professionals, and they need that little push.
Yep.
So if you think about selling real estate, find people that just need a little push to get them into home ownership.
That's great.
And then maybe, if it fits their bill, sell them a duplex, sell them a triplex, sell them a fourplex. It's 1 to 4 is residential, 5 or more is commercial. We all know that. Even Kevin knows that.
Great suggestion. Now, I want you to fight this thesis, because I know you're going to have a lot to say about this. California is cuckoo. They don't build homes, which ironically makes the property values go up in the good areas. So I like buying there because they're so dumb they don't build. What do you think about that?
I mean, unfortunately, listen, every town is different, every area is different. They got different politics, they got different everything, industries. You got to find what works. And whatever works, work the shit out of it. Okay, you know what I say? He's talking about California. I got out of there after 18 years. But I always tell people, where can I find a deal? Well, go somewhere where they are, everybody's seen these big developments go up where the guy comes in, KB or, all the big home builders, they come in, they'll throw up what, 300 houses at a time? They've done their homework, okay? So they've invested a lot of money in looking at those areas, knowing there's gonna be growth. Who knows, maybe Amazon's coming in, who knows? That's where the growth is at. Go and ride on their coattail. Find the older homes and the fixer-uppers around them for everybody that is coming to that area but maybe can't afford that brand new house. But California, if that's what works in California, then you work whatever you can work. If it's fixing up older places, then you got to fix them up. And yes, it does keep the values high in those properties because they got no new product to compete with.
Would you ever get into development? Or
I've never
encourage them?
done any ground up. We've done a little retail here and there. I've always been, take something, put it back in the shape it should be, or improve it, and work with what's already there. I've never been a big construction guy. It just wasn't my thing because I had so many fixer-uppers to do. Why start building? Plus, with building, let me tell you, my son got an education in building. He built a building, and he said, holy shit, if I ever do this again, I'll save hundreds of thousands of dollars from all the mistakes that I made. You got to deal with engineers, you got to deal with zoning, you got to deal with architects, you got to deal with the fire codes. There's all kinds of shit going on when you're building stuff. So you got to know what you're doing, and you got to have the right professional people helping you, because nobody knows everything. And then the GC, the contractor, you got to be careful, because he's going to take you in as far as he can. He's going to sub out all the work. He's going to make money off the subs. He's going to make money off of this. You got to have a budget. You got to have your shit together. You got to be very careful when you're building stuff. But yes, you can make money. What I've done is I look at things and say, all right, this place has failed. I have a tourist place called John's Pass. A lot of tourists come there. We got boardwalk, we got all kinds of water activities, pirate ships, dolphin tours, fishing boats, you name it, we got it. And we had all this retail that, when I bought it, that sat on the second floor. Retail does not work on the second floor. Nobody wants to go upstairs in elevators to go shopping, really. It's not a mall. So it sat empty ever since they built the place. So I walk in, I see all this empty space. It makes no sense. It's just sitting there empty. What can we do to repurpose it? Sometimes you got to think out of the box. So, what do we need here? We got all these tourists, but we got no hotel rooms. We went to the city and we said, hey, you mind is it zoned okay? Can we convert this empty space into hotel rooms? They said, be our guest. So I threw up, every room cost me $30,000 to turn into a hotel room. I took that whole empty space and we turned it into 10 hotel rooms. 30 grand a piece it cost me. And they got rented like that. And they're still being rented today. We just built 10 more. All right, so basically I took $30,000 investment into dead space. Those rooms are probably worth at least $200,000 to $250,000 a piece because of the income that they make. So you got to think out of the box. You got to look at something that's not working right and come up with an idea that will work.
How soon do you get into stocks if you're starting with real estate?
Ooh.
Stocks. How soon do you get into stocks?
Listen, I only like to talk to people about stuff that I know. All right? I played with stocks. It's not for me. Okay? I'm not saying it's bad. I've seen a lot of people make a lot of money. But if you want to be in stocks, or a guy like me, you got to be in it to win it. You got to be on it. And I just don't have the time. I've lost money. I've made money, but I like real estate. That's what I know. Okay? Invested in other companies, that's a great thing. But I'm in no control of those companies. I'm in control of everything when I buy a piece of real estate. I got it right here in my hands, and I'm in the driver's seat. But stocks are a good investment. I got a wealth manager, Merrill Lynch. They loan me a lot of money, so I give them a little money to play with. I gave him like $10 million, maybe about, a year, 2 years ago. I gave him $10 million about 2 years. I looked at my account, the $10 million is $15 million now. That's great. But the year before that, I think it was the opposite. So, stocks they've been around and they're going to be around and they're a great way, but you got to put your time and you got to know a little something about them and you got to follow stuff. It's like everything else in life. It's all in what you put into it. I don't really think anybody can wave a magic wand and make all our dreams come true. I haven't yet. I've only met one Indian in a bottle, and that's the guy that works for me. He's an Indian guy, and his name is Happy Nook, and he runs all my hotels. That guy's like an Indian in a bottle. You popped open that bottle, Happy comes out, he'll take a piece of shit hotel, and he'll get it working right, and, because that's what he does, But it's very hard. You really got to know what the hell you're doing when you're investing your money.
Any tax write-off strategies? A lot of people are looking for how to save money from the IRS. Nobody wants to pay taxes.
I mean, listen, if you're making money, you really need a good accountant. You got to have a CPA that understands you, what you're doing, and make sure he's capturing everything that he can legally capture to eliminate your tax bill. All right? I meant many, many, many years without paying taxes. Why? Because real estate is depreciated. All right? If you buy a building, if you buy any kind of residential apartments, let's say you pay $1 million for it, you're going to divide that purchase price, minus out a little for the land, and divide it by 27.5 years, correct? I don't have a calculator. Whatever that number is, you get to depreciate that from your rental income. So basically, you're really not paying tax on your rental income. You're deferring it. If you sell, you will have to recapture it down the road. If you're 1031, you can keep deferring it, all right? Because then it falls into your basis. I mean, I don't want to bore everybody with accounting, but you definitely got to know what the hell you're doing when it comes to taxes. And you got to make sure that you write off and keep track of all your expenses that are legitimate expenses. Travel, tools, equipment. A lot of guys, I heard of these guys. A lot of these guys, they go out and they buy planes. And they're brilliant. They go out and buy planes right during that tax year, because they get to write it off, correct?
All of it.
So if this guy made millions of dollars and he goes out and buys a plane for millions of dollars, the plane's still worth millions of dollars. He can sell it anytime he wants. If he can afford to do that, hey, he just eliminated paying Uncle Sam all that money. You gotta know your taxes, and you gotta make sure you account for every dime coming in and try to capture every deduction you can for every dime going out. But always have a good CPA.
We're going to do some Q&A now. We're going to throw a mic up here in the middle, and we'll let the audience come join for some questions.
When you're dealing with multifamily in whichever state, mostly Florida, I assume, what are the eviction laws, and how do you flip a property like that?
Every state, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, eviction laws can differ even by county, I think. Okay, and a lot of states are more landlord friendly. Okay, but evictions are becoming a serious issue now. Okay, a very serious issue, because it's all about people's rights. Well, I'm sorry, if you didn't pay your rent, then what right do you have? I still got the bills to pay, the mortgage, the taxes, the insurance, and all that. I don't get it. But I got out of California because of evictions, okay? Because it got so ridiculous that, the tenants had so many rights and so many ways to cost me a fortune and delay the process that I just threw my hands up. So you got to be careful wherever you buy real estate. You got to know and look into what the eviction laws are, okay? Because you don't want to get stuck in a place like the Bay Area where I was in California. It'll take you 6 months and $10,000 in legal fees and still lose all that rent for 6 months just to get rid of a tenant. It'll be very costly, and it has ruined a lot of property owners. So you really got to know what the eviction laws are, and I always try to specialize with an attorney that only did evictions, a guy that knew the ropes, okay? Always try to find specialists when you have problems, like doctors. So you got to be very, very careful with evictions. You got to make sure you got a good lease. You got to make sure, listen, if the rent ain't paid, don't delay. Lay that 3-day notice on them, all right? And you got to be, I used to be real lenient. And my son said, wait a minute, you got to stop doing this. You're giving people breaks, and, a lot of them are jerking us around. You're feeling sorry for people. You got to run it like a business, all right? They got a contract with us. They got to pay. I'm sorry this happened. I'm sorry your car broke down, but we got bills to pay. But yes, you should be very, very conscious of what the eviction laws are in the area that you own real estate.
You ever do cash for keys?
What?
Cash for keys, pay him to get out?
Oh my God, I'd cut any deal I could. I would go out and rent a U-Haul truck with my money, get the movers to move the stuff into the truck, go rent them storage in their name just to get rid of them, because if I had to go through an eviction, it would cost me thousands of dollars. It's always easier to try to make a deal with somebody and avoid litigation, avoid courts. I paid people to get out. Whatever the situation is, evaluate how bad that situation can get and try to make a deal whenever you can. I put people up in hotel rooms. I've done it all.
Next question.
Hi, Ben.
Hi.
So let's say this is a real situation. You buy a property for all cash. It throws off about a 7% cap rate. At what point would you finance that money, or would you be never? No, it'd be like just keep the cash in there. What's your advice on that?
Okay. If you're getting a 7% return on that cash, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, you're getting 7% on that money. I mean, it depends. Number one, if you went out and got a loan, there goes your 7% in today's market, and even more because you're going to be buying down principal, whatever. Your payment's going to be more. You're going to be negative cash flow, right? But you will be able to write off that expense of the interest that you're paying, which you're not doing right now. So you have to sit down and figure out. It's all math. I sit down with a calculator all the time. I figure out what is the best scenario for this situation. You need to see, does it benefit you tax-wise? Maybe, that's why you got to talk to your accountant. Maybe it would benefit you to get the tax benefits from borrowing the money. But then, what are you going to do with the money? The money you get in the bank, you're paying 7% on. All right, yeah, you can stick it in a money market at 5%, but that's taxable too. You got to look at the equation and figure out the good, the bad, and what makes sense. What is the bottom line? It's all about the bottom line, all right? You could take the money, put it in 5% tax-free municipal bonds. Am I working?
Now it is.
Working?
It cut out.
You could do that. I'm a big fan of tax-free muni bonds because I can get 5% in a fund or actually in a bond with no tax. And I'm in the 37% tax bracket. So, that's what I do with money that I'm stashing away. And I can always borrow against that, too, if I want. But you got to sit down and figure out every scenario. What makes the most sense for you? But at 7%, it doesn't make sense right now.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, next question.
How you doing, Ben?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good, thank you. So going back to that same topic is I live in California, near Los Angeles, and I'm having a hard time just with the tenant laws that are coming up and passing. So I'm trying to justify continuing to buy property. And so one of the laws that's going to be passing in July is we can only ask for 1 month of security deposit. And it used to be, up to 2 months, 3 months if it's furnished. And so that really, as a landlord, I'm going to take more risk. And now there's another law coming out. Possibly we can't even ask about pets anymore. That hasn't passed yet. But again, that's just, I feel like Los Angeles is just so pro-tenant that I'm now reconsidering continuing to buy property there. But like you, I like to get my hands on things, and I follow the 30-minute rule. Is that something I should reconsider altogether, kind of like how you left, or what would your thought process be?
I mean, if you're in California and you got to be there and that's life, then you got to make life the best out of it. I mean, basically, if they have lowered the amount you can charge for security deposit, which I don't see how they can do that, because I used to charge security deposits based on credibility. If somebody had bad credit, can you still charge the last month's rent on top of the security deposit? I mean, then you're going to have to tighten up on your screening. You're going to have to really screen the hell out of people. You're going to have to really look at their credit report. You're going to have to look at their income, the stability of their income and their employment. You're going to have to look at their history. You're going to have to make sure that you're getting really strong quality tenants that aren't going to want to screw up their credit report. But, I mean, that's why I get out of California. There's too many goddamn rules that make no sense for a business person. But you're going to have to tighten up on your screening and who you're going to rent to, and then throw one chair in there and call it furnished.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of the policies in California, they're counterintuitive because that hurts lower income tenants. Now a lower income tenant can no longer rent from, let's say, Ben Mallah, because you're saying, all right, I can only collect 1 month of security deposit. I'm going to take a higher quality or more qualified tenant. Now the other person doesn't get a rental anymore.
On the flip side, I actually, when the market was like back in, we're talking early 2000s, late 90s, when it was tough, to find tenants and where I was at in the Bay Area, I would waive the security deposit. Why would I do that? Because I only rented to Section 8, because that's what I needed, that guarantee. I knew that if I rented to a Section 8 tenant, number one, it was a tough area, so I really like Section 8, because if you're in a rough area, you got to be careful who you rent to. People don't have a lot of money. You're not going to get your money that easy. So I was told I was the biggest Section 8 landlord in Oakland back in the day. And I would say, forget about a security deposit. I didn't need it. Just give me that voucher, I fill out the paperwork, and every month my rent was guaranteed. So, it depends on the situation. If you're in an area where it's hard to find tenants, that you're sure going to pay every month, you might want to look into Section 8. There's a lot of good families that are on Section 8 that just don't have a lot of money, But you got to screen people no matter what. But you really got to screen them if they're limiting the amount of security deposit that you can charge to protect yourself. So be good on the screening.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Pick and choose.
Mr. Mallah.
Yes,
Wait,
sir.
let me put my glasses on real quick.
Put your glasses on. There we go.
Right.
Now we're right
First,
in
now
line. Now we're in line with
Exactly.
each other. All right.
So you're wearing the burgundy, green, gray. Right,
There we
memos.
go.
Beyond that, in the theme of surrounding yourself with people making money, your first mentor, besides him, were there other notable mentors and biggest lessons learned besides that first?
Was he at our meeting, the
I was
AA
there.
meeting too, or what?
Yesterday.
Yesterday, yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Tell me what you're talking about, please.
Right.
Everybody can understand.
Okay, mentors.
No offense.
Beyond the first one,
What are we talking about?
mentors.
Mentor.
Knowledge.
Mentor.
Money. Yes, sir.
I mean, so what about mentors?
Beyond the first one, were there other notable mentors and lessons you learned from those other mentors?
I mean, you talk about me personally?
Yes.
I mean, listen, I took advice from people that I felt they knew what they were talking about, all right? Because the proof is in the pudding, all right? If I see a guy's doing something and he's doing it and making money at it, then I'm going to listen to what he's got to say. But honestly, the way I learned, basically by doing stuff, and I tell my kids this, is do it, all right? Learn basics about it. There's no better experience than living the experience. Yes, you try to do educational things. You try to, gather your knowledge on a subject, but get your hands dirty. Get in there and do it. Are you going to make mistakes? Yes. But that's part of the learning process. But, as far as I never really, I used people for what I thought they were good. I had a good broker who was always feeding me deals. He was my mentor to go to, if you want to say it, when I needed foreclosure deals. I went to that guy. I had a good insurance agent. I utilized him. I went to this banker here because he was always loaning me money without being a pain in the ass. I mean, you find tools. People are tools, okay? And then you take all these tools and you start working these tools. You're the guy in control. But, you know, I'm sure there's good people out there like myself that you can take advice from, you know. So, you know, anybody you feel that has valid, good, strong, solid advice and can back it up. I mean, you can go to my websites and see all the shit I own. It's not bullshit, you know. So I'm not just telling you. I'm telling you real life experiences here. So be careful who you mentor with, you know.
Good question.
You know, there's an old saying, those who can do, those who can't teach. Those who can't teach Jim. I wasn't making any personal. Kevin's very well to do. Yes, sir.
Hey guys, I'm James. Just really fortunate to have both of you in front of me, Ben, Kevin, and all of us. This is a kind of what would you do if you were in my situation. Real quick, unfortunate chain of events. Lost my business in LA right when I was about to sell it, starting over, new chapter, boohoo, whatever. I've got a real estate license, I've got my mortgage lending operator's license, I've got rentals that have, each of them have between 50 and 90% equity, cumulative about 2.5 million. What would you do if you were starting, in my situation, starting over where I'm at?
You want an answer or you want me to answer?
Well, we can both answer. Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
All right. What do you like to do?
Yeah, that's why I was
What do
getting
you
going.
like? What do you got a
Get
passion
the income going, yeah.
What's going to make you money? It takes up the least amount of your time that you really enjoy. What? Selling real estate, selling loans, or working on your rental properties?
The third one. I love working on, getting my hands dirty, and taking a piece of crap, fixing it up, and making it, you know, adding to the community.
All right. Now, listen. Can you find a deal? That's what it's all about.
All right.
Anybody, as long as you find a deal. Now, yeah, you got a lot of equity in your properties. And yes, interest rates are high. But
Maybe if you could pull that mic pack out a little and just put it next to wherever the pack is. Is it
Pack?
that? Yeah, just put it. No,
This
not
thing?
the cigarettes.
no, this.
Yeah, put it out. It's just put it on your lap. Yeah.
Hello. All right, listen, seriously. It might pay, even at 7% interest, for you to take some of that money out of your properties and invest it if you could find a deal.
Well, hold on. You don't have income, so you can't qualify.
Right.
Yeah,
I have
no,
a lot of
you gotta
equity,
start
no
with
income.
You
But
gotta
if I,
start with income. It's nice to fix up your properties, but
Not at 70,
so-
you have no income?
I just lost my business, I was about to sell, California, PAGA laws, whatever. So I'm just starting out, I could do
Don't your
mortgage
rental
lending.
properties cash flow?
Yeah,
I've never had a job in most of my adult life. Every loan I've ever gotten was because my tax return showed my rental income. So what do you get? I mean, you probably need to, you know, talk privately with me, but what, you know, do you have an income for your rental properties?
yeah, all of them are positive cash flow, but,
Well, then you
know,
do have an income, but how much?
yeah, not
But
as,
listen, a guy like you, if you have
Right.
rental income, they look at that you have enough money coming in to take care of yourself. Commercial loans or commercial lenders base the loan on the property that you're buying. Does that property you're going into get a cash flow? Is it safe for the bank to loan money on it? Okay, you don't have to have a job to borrow money. You don't have to have a W-2, but you do have to show that you can support yourself, and the deal you're buying's got to have cash flow. You're talking about doing flips. I mean, have you ever sat down and looked at your cash flow versus if you did sell one of your assets off, what that can do in your life? If you got 50% equity in a property, or you said even 90, right? Yeah. It might pay for you to sell certain assets because maybe you can take that equity you got and turn it into something that's going to be far more better than a cash flow. You got to sit down. Everybody's got a different menu and a different life. What's best for you? Do I refinance? Do I sell? Can I find another deal to take that money and put it into? What's your next move? You got to have a plan.
well,
So-
should I use the real estate license or the mortgage lending
Listen,
to help
if you
others?
got a real estate license, have you ever sold a house before?
No.
Have you ever sold anything before using a license?
No, I like to buy, but
Well, you got to be a sales guy.
Yeah.
You're going to use that license. You got to go to an office and let them hold your license. And you got to find buyers. You got to find sellers.
Right.
And you got to work that license if you want to do that.
Gotcha.
I mean, you can if you got a license. But if I was you, I'd go to the most expensive real estate office there was. Give it a try. Like I said, in California, you sell something for $1 million, and you got a $30,000 commission coming in.
right.
What was your prior job?
I owned a private security company for the entertainment industry in LA, and California PAGA laws wiped that out.
The issue I see is, so you said you had roughly $2 million or so of properties. Even if I took sort
Of equity in the property.
that's the equity. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So and these are in California.
LA, yeah.
Okay, so I mean, if I run this at like a 4 cap, it's 80K of income. It's not enough to qualify on for more property. So we got to get some income in the top line. Sure, you could sell a property, but then you're paying selling costs. It's a pain in the ass. Why?
And
The
like
point is, if you buy something, you're going to need 20% down at least.
Right, and you need
Right.
the cash.
And I like to buy and keep. I was thinking about using the MLO license to help other investors find deals, and therefore, I'm hooking up with investors that are the smart money and find my own deals, and that's how.
Being an agent and a lender, sure, you can do that.
Yeah.
But you need income.
Right.
Once
Gotcha.
you get that income coming in, you can go buy as many deals as you want. But you're not going to retire on $2 million.
Right. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Go buy a suit and go sell some real estate. But seriously, you got to sit down and see what makes sense. See, the problem with him is you're probably not sitting on a lot of cash, right? I mean, you got to have money to make money. All right, let's face it. Go out, find a deal, raise the 20%, and, or maybe if if the bank makes you, or, you may have to put 30% down. Find a deal where you can get a loan. You can always get a loan. You just got to put more down, right? The less the bank loans you, the more they're happy. Yes, ma'am.
Hello.
Hi.
Sorry, I'm a little loud. So I was wanting to know, it's for basically both of you, your growth curves, instead of being linear like most investors, where you pick up a deal every couple of years or and grow your wealth over time, you guys are almost on it like an exponential growth curve. And I wanted to know, what do you guys do differently than other investors?
What was the question? About?
Alright,
I don't hear that good.
Basically, how do you snowball your wealth
Yeah.
so well?
Snowball, that's a good word.
Yeah.
Snowball. I mean, what me was, if there was a deal out there and I knew it was a deal and I knew I could do it, I did it. All right? I used everything I had within my resources to just nonstop. Even today, I wake up every day, I get hundreds of emails of opportunities, and hopefully I'll pick that one deal out of them that's going to make me, move up the ladder more. All right? You just got to constantly use all your resources, constantly look for deals, and never get comfortable until you get to the point where you feel like, all right, I'm going to take a break. But you want to snowball, you just got to keep rolling that snow, any way possible.
Growing income is a substantial way to really help grow investments. And I know it's a boring answer, but it's also true. It's a lot easier to buy a home every year if you have more income. So what can you do to get that more income? If somebody else is out there and they're making $500K a year as a real estate agent and you're making $50K a year, what are you doing that's different from them? And how can you do half of what they're doing? Great, now I can buy another 1 to 2 properties a year. So
What are you doing right now? Do you mind me asking? What do you do right now?
So I live in a rural area, but I have a real estate brokerage. We have 15 agents, and we do have a property management arm. We have 600 units under management. I also do fix and flips and have personal rentals.
Okay, you're in a rural area, correct?
Yes.
Well, the problem in rural areas, which are great, I just bought 2 apartment buildings in the middle of nowhere. The problem is you're limited. There's only so much money going on in these rural areas. So the only way that you're going to be able to grow is to spread out Where are you at, you mind me asking? What area?
It's Ardmore is the town. It's southern Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, okay. You're gonna have to just spread your wings. And, you know, I always tell people, listen, they always call me up and complain, I can't find a deal, I can't find a deal. Well, draw a bigger circle on your map. That's what you gotta do. You gotta expand your radius, because there's only so much going on in one area.
Did you start looking at bigger deals as you got more equity?
I always looked at whatever, I always bid off as much as I could chew. That's what I did. If I could chew it, I bit it off. And I tried never to bite off more than I could chew. But if you're in a small area and you feel like you've exhausted all the opportunity there, okay, then you're gonna have to expand. If you're doing property management, get more accounts. Maybe go into some, bigger properties, or are you doing multifamily type property management?
Ours are mostly single family that we manage.
What'd you say?
Single family.
Single families. Well, then start marketing to another area that you can travel to, maybe. I mean, or if you have to travel, or, you know, you have to expand. And you're doing brokerages, you're doing sales too, right?
Yes.
Well, then you have to start getting in other people's territory. You know, nobody owns a territory. You know, you go anywhere you want. So now, if you probably go about, 20 miles out from where you're at right now?
30 miles in each direction.
Well, you might have to jump that up to 50. I don't know. I don't know what's the next money place in your area that you can start trying to get listings on, trying to market to. I mean, you got to expand your area. Oklahoma's a big state.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, good luck to you.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for having this. And Ben, it was great. My son's back there, and he's just rapt attention listening to what you have to say. I want to circle back. You started out with something about the signs, and we've had 3 people talk, and one was very much about the hotels are full, so everything's good.
What did he say? I missed it.
He's asking about your worry about the market
Right, the
crashing.
market.
We had somebody who came here called Ross, and he said, look, Vegas is busy, the hotels are full, there's no recession coming.
Right, and then we had Kathy Wood, who looks at all the numbers and says, there's cracks in the foundation, well, at least the way I looked at it. And you talked about the signs, and I think a lot of times when we do business, it's about our outlook on what's coming down the road as to how we position ourselves. So could you sum up what you see is going to happen over the next year or two as far as the economy? Recession, not economy. There's opportunities in every market, I believe, but you got to know what you're looking at.
Okay. You already said it. There's cracks in the foundation. Okay? It is no possible way that people or the banks are going to be able to refinance all the loans that they gave at today's rates. It's impossible. Okay, I'm going to tell you something, and the bank may not like me telling you this, but I'm going to tell you anyway because I ain't got nothing to hide. They sent me documents having me sign saying that I no longer have to meet the covenants of my loan. Believe that?
No.
You know why? Because I can't. Okay, I borrowed millions of dollars based on certain covenants that the property was going to cash flow. And at today's interest rates, it's impossible for them to meet those criteria. So what's going to happen when what I said what they're doing is they're playing pretend and extend. They're pretending everything's okay, and they're extending things out as long as the guy's paying. But sooner or later, the banks can't sit on these bad loans forever. And people are going to stop wanting to have properties that don't cash flow. Okay, luckily I'm strong enough to handle it. But a lot of guys aren't. And a lot of partnerships are not going to want to come in and make principal buy downs. They're not going to make principal contributions. They don't do that. They're going to walk and they're going to say to hell with it. And anything that's non-recourse, okay, they're really going to walk. So I'm seeing Wall Street money all going up for sale right now. You got to look at the signs. The signs are there. The writing's on the wall. Opportunity is coming, and you got to be ready. But it's moving slow, but it's going to happen soon because it has to. Every loan is on a clock, and sooner or later the clock is going to be up. Is that your question?
Yeah, and I guess the real question is, you know, you look at that and you see the banks are, how does that affect your day-to-day guy that's renting your properties and that you're looking to you know, that are your clients? And are they going to suffer, or do you think there's the demand in rentals is going to stay high? How does that?
I mean, because homes are so expensive right now, it is a known fact, at least where I live, it's cheaper to rent than it is to buy.
Yeah.
I was just talking to Rafali the other day. He wants to buy a house and settle down. He's out looking for houses. And he's looking at houses, you know, it would make sense if he could at least pay the same as rent, you know, with his mortgage, his taxes, his insurance. But right now, it's actually cheaper to rent. So the rental market is very strong because it's so expensive. From what I've read, we are at an all-time high of the lowest amount of applications and loans being processed. And all the bankers are starving right now. The poor real estate agents are starving to close a deal, okay, because things aren't moving. We're at a standstill. That's the problem when, you know, government comes in and they do things and it triggers things to happen, and now they don't know what to do. You know, they claim they're handling inflation. I don't know what the hell they're doing, buying down a debt. I don't know. I don't understand the economics of it, but I will tell you this. It costs too much for everything. Okay, now we should be worried because rents have gotten extremely high. The cost of living is extremely high. Wages are going up, which might be good for the working person, but the business owners are going to get hit hard with that. And if the business owners fold, then the workers get screwed, and it's a domino effect. That's why we gotta regroup and go back to 4 years ago.
Are we going to go into a renter nation, 10, 20 years, more renters than owners?
I don't know. I mean, with interest rates being where they're at today, you know, people cannot afford to buy a house. It's a fact. I mean, even with FHA and low money down.
Yep.
So, you know, right now, it's time to focus on what you can do to make some money in the future. And I'm telling you, start lowballing and looking for deals and buying them at the right price. That's what you need to start doing.
Good question. Okay.
Thank you.
It looks like we've got about maybe 3 more questions here, and then we're going to wrap up. So go ahead.
Hey, Kev. Hey, Ben. Appreciate you guys doing this. Quick question. So when constructing like a real estate portfolio, do you think it's important to have a balance between appreciation properties and like cash flow properties? Or how do you look at those different markets? Do you think it's important to have a balance between both in your portfolio?
You should have a diversified portfolio. I mean, you know, every asset is different, okay? Typically, I always do this. I look at my asset. I run about 25 different properties at all times. They could be all different types of assets, hotels, apartments, triple net, shopping centers. I look at the asset, okay, and I say, okay, how much money is this place going to bring me in every year? All right? Now I know that, and how much money do I have invested in it? Okay, so what's my return? Now, my ultimate goal in life was always to own real estate that cash flowed with no money invested. I always tried to buy a property, value add it, refinance it, which is not a taxable event, right? Get my money back and then some, and still cash flow. Because you know why? That's an infinite return. Okay? I got a hotel right now. I paid $20 million for it. I borrowed $28.5. I'm already $8 million. I'm already up $8.5 million on the place, and it still makes $1 million a year. Those are the kind of real estate deals I always look for. It was a piece of shit when I bought it. Yes, we fixed it up, but luckily the revenue paid for the fix up. I mean, I got that magic Indian, you know. But anyway, the point is, you want to look at what's best for you. To sit back and cash flow on its property, or if you sold it, how much money would that get you versus the cash flow? I would much rather have $1 million in my hand than $100,000 a year. That's me, because it take me 10 years to make that $1 million. But I could take that $1 million and maybe turn it into $2 million, buying the right deal. Everything has to do with what's best for you, what kind of deals you're open to, and or you can refinance it. What's your cash flow going to be if you refinance it, pull your money out? Are you still going to cash flow? You got to sit down and look at every asset. Every asset is different. I've never seen, there's similar assets, but every asset is different. Look and see what's the best thing to do with this property and what's going to make you the most money and what's going to let you grow. If you sit back and you got a good cash flow, that's fine. But you ain't got no goddamn money to go buy the next deal. So what good is that? All right, you're making $5,000 a month, that's great. But you can't do no more deals. That's the position I was in. I couldn't sit back with $5,000 a month. I couldn't grow. So I went out and I borrowed against that property. I may have gave up the cash flow. I might have sold the property because I don't want to own property with no cash flow. You got to do whatever it's going to help you do to make you grow. But if you can have cash flow and have properties that are flips, you got to do it all. Whatever makes sense. Whatever's going to put the most money in your pocket and enable you to grow.
Fair enough. Good answer. Appreciate it.
Excellent. All right, last two questions.
Hey, my name's David. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to both of you guys. This is awesome.
Great.
My business is in providing facility services for retail and restaurant companies, like multi-location companies.
Retail services for retail companies, like
Yeah,
restaurants?
retail, restaurants, multi-location companies.
What kind of services?
Handyman, electrical, plumbing, things of that nature.
Like maintenance X?
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
the owner, okay.
Okay, great. Are you finding it hard to put tenants into your strip malls and your standalone commercial buildings? Because that's what I'm wondering, if that's a good place to even buy into. Because I look at some of our customers, we watch some of them go under, and then I see those spots not being filled.
Retail can be very tricky. Now, what happened to us was we didn't know anything about retail. We were strictly apartment buildings. We did the C class, we did the B class. The problem is we couldn't keep growing. The prices went too high. Everybody there, mama got into multifamily. The prices went through the roof. All the California people with all their money. Anyway, what are we going to do? We got to buy something. We won't be able to grow. We couldn't find nothing for our 1031s. I didn't want to pay the government millions of dollars of tax. We went into retail, and we went into everything. And now I can safely say I have experience in retail. And I got a lot of experience, so did my sons, by learning it's not that easy, but it can be very profitable. It's just like every other aspect of real estate. It's all about supply and demand. You have to own property where there's a demand. Now, yes, the beauty about retail is if you go out and you find a strip center that has about 5 or 6 shops in it, right? Typically hair, nails, food, necessity, things that even COVID can't kill or the Amazon or online can't hurt, things that people can't live without. That's typically what strip centers are, or should be. Now, if you go out and you find a 6-unit one and 2 of them are empty, well, ding, 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 baby. You get those 2 spaces for free and you got instant value add. And that's what we look for. But what does the place need to get them rented? You need to maybe get a leasing agent that specializes. Maybe you need to contact other people that are doing well and see if they want to open up a space. You need to put up a good sign. You might need to fix the parking lot. You might need to paint the place. You need to figure out what you can do to get somebody in that space of what's not there, because you can never compete with your own tenants. They have special things in the leases anyway that prevent it. So hair, nail, food, believe it or not, child care is very big now. Whatever you feel you can do to get that space filled. Or what we've had a lot of success with is a lot of big boxes, are having trouble renting. Everybody's shrinking down because of the internet. Best Buy, they don't take big stores anymore. Look who went on Bed Bath & Beyond. They went belly up, all right? So what do you do with all these big boxes? Nobody wants to rent them. So we've had a lot of success in coming in and reconfiguring them into smaller spaces. We had a bank we bought in a shopping center who could never get it rented. Nobody wants this big-ass bank. So what do? We went in, we threw a goddamn wall down the middle. Now we got 2 smaller spaces, which were in demand. So instead of 4,000 square feet, now we got 2 2s, we rented them like that. One went to a veterinarian, one went to a smoothie guy, and we lived happily ever after. You gotta look for opportunity in retail. All right? The money is in the vacant space and you getting it rented. Because when you buy it, you're getting it for free. You buy retail based on a cap rate. And that's based on the income that's being generated.
And you're mostly renting to the small businesses and stuff like that. You're staying away from
I've done
the
it
national
all.
guys
I
mostly?
rent to TJ Maxx.
Oh, yeah.
I rent to Ross. I rent to everybody on every level. I've rented to medical marijuana the other goddamn a couple of weeks ago. Why? Or months ago. Because they offered me a big fucking rent, pardon my language. They offered my son a rent that was just ridiculous. Take it. Problem is the banks don't like loaning on it so much, so we're not going to get no leverage on that place, but that's okay. They're paying me like double rent. Every property has a different story. You got to find the story that makes sense for that property. So look for opportunity in retail in the vacant space, and then figure out how to get that space filled. And we pay leasing agents. We're happy to pay them. We pay lots of money to leasing agents. You got to find the right people that are doing the right job that you need. And that's it.
Yeah.
But always check the roof.
Especially all those flat roofs on the strip malls.
Oh, my God.
Every 5 years.
It could cost you $1 million. Anybody here, ever heard of Publix? Publix grocery? Oh, my God. I had to put a new roof on a Publix. $1 million. What am I going to do? I had to do it. I was responsible for the roof.
What's one of the reasons I like single family myself, like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, always rents instantly. I don't have to wait. There's always somebody wanting a 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
It's true.
Why not advertise these things that you told us here? I feel like nobody else knows about this.
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber. Meet Kevin. Always great to get your take.
Even though I'm a licensed financial advisor, licensed real estate broker, and becoming a stockbroker, this video is not personalized advice for you. It is not tax, legal, or otherwise personalized advice tailored to you. This video provides generalized perspective, information, and commentary. Any third-party content I show shall not be deemed endorsed by me. This video is not and shall never be deemed reasonably sufficient information for the purposes of evaluating a security or investment decision. Any links or promoted products are either paid affiliations or products or services we may benefit from. I also personally operate an actively managed ETF. I may personally hold or otherwise hold long or short positions in various securities, potentially including those mentioned in this video. However, I have no relationship to any issuer other than HouseHack, nor am I presently acting as a market maker. Make sure if you're considering investing in HouseHack to always read the PPM at househack.com.